The moment everything began to unravel was so quiet it almost felt unimportant. No sirens, no shouting, no crowd gathering, just a wooden utility pole standing at the edge of a calm suburban street, its surface worn smooth by decades of weather and time. A freshly taped missing poster clung to it, fluttering softly as the afternoon breeze passed by. The paper rustled gently, as if whispering to anyone willing to listen. The face printed on it was young, smiling, and painfully innocent, the kind of smile that makes strangers slow their steps without knowing why. Standing inches away from that poster was a woman who had conquered boardrooms, dominated markets, and built an empire from nothing. A woman who had survived ruthless negotiations and sleepless years without ever showing weakness. Yet now her hands trembled so badly it looked as though she were holding her own heart between her fingers, afraid that one wrong movement might shatter it. Her breathing was shallow, her shoulders stiff, her eyes fixed on the photograph as if looking away would make it disappear. Across from her stood a small girl, barefoot, thin, serious-eyed. Her clothes were worn and faded, hanging loosely from a body that had grown faster than circumstances allowed. She stood still, not timid, not defiant, just quietly present. There was something in her posture that didn't belong to childhood, a steadiness earned too early. She carried a truth far heavier than her age, a truth that would break a millionaire woman in a way no financial loss ever could. And if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what truly matters, stay with us. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. It means more than you know. Her name was Celeste Rowan. To the world, Celeste was a self-made millionaire known for steel nerves and impossible standards. She had grown up with nothing, slept in her car during college, showered at gyms she couldn't afford, and survived on determination alone. She clawed her way into industries that had no intention of welcoming her. Success didn't just change her life, it became her shield. Control became her language. Power became her proof that she would never be vulnerable again. People admired her discipline, feared her precision, whispered about her coldness. What they didn't know was that everything she built was driven by fear. The fear of losing, of depending, of failing someone again. The missing child on the poster was her daughter, Isla, a daughter she had lost long before she ever disappeared. Celeste hadn't always meant to be absent. At least, that's what she told herself. She believed she was building a future, securing safety, providing comfort. Late nights at the office became routine. Missed school events became unavoidable. Forgotten phone calls became habits she promised she'd fix soon. When Isla was 8, Celeste sent her to live temporarily with a distant relative while she finalized what she called the most important deal of her career. Temporary stretched into months. Months turned into years. Visits became rare. Calls became shorter. Silence settled in quietly, unnoticed until it felt permanent. Then one afternoon the call came. Isla was gone. No warning, no goodbye. No explanation that made sense, just absence. A space where laughter should have been. Investigations began immediately. Police searched. Volunteers combed neighborhoods. Media coverage surged and then slowly faded. Leads dried up, hope thinned. Faces offering reassurance slowly shifted toward sympathy. Celeste spent everything she had chasing answers. Private investigators, search teams, billboards, campaigns. But grief does not respond to money. It does not hurry for wealth. It simply waits. Now, months later, Celeste was back on that quiet street again, taping up another poster with her own hands. No assistants, no drivers, no protection. She refused to delegate what felt like the last remaining act of motherhood she could still perform. Her fingers pressed the paper flat against the pole, smoothing wrinkles as if smoothing the past. That was when the girl appeared. She had been watching for a while, watching Celeste's hands tremble, watching her eyes dart back to the photograph again and again, as if afraid the face might change if she stopped looking. The girl didn't interrupt. She didn't ask questions. She waited, and then softly she spoke, just a sentence. Simple, calm, certain. Celeste felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She turned slowly, afraid that any sudden movement might break whatever fragile moment had formed. She searched the child's face for confusion, for cruelty, for some sign of a cruel prank. There was none, only seriousness, experience, a sadness children should never carry. Celeste tried to steady herself, tried to keep hope from flooding back too fast. But hope is stubborn. It slips through cracks you swear were sealed forever. The girl explained in fragments, with small gestures. She said she had seen the missing child before. Not on television, not online, in real life. Somewhere ordinary, somewhere overlooked, somewhere people passed every day without noticing who lived there. Celeste listened without interrupting. Her breath grew shallow. Her chest tightened. Every instinct told her to protect herself from disappointment, to brace for another dead end, but her body betrayed her. Tears burned, her knees weakened. What broke Celeste wasn't just the possibility that Isla might be alive. It was the realization that while she had been chasing power, her daughter may have been surviving on kindness from strangers. People with nothing but time, warmth, and shared struggle. People Celeste had never noticed, never valued, never seen. The girl didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for praise. She simply pointed, explained, and waited. And in that silence, Celeste collapsed. She knelt right there on the pavement, her expensive clothes pressed against concrete, hands covering her face as sobs tore through her without restraint. Years of guilt poured out. every missed bedtime, every unanswered call, every moment she chose control over presence. The girl stood quietly nearby, giving her space, as if she understood that sometimes adults break louder than children. Celeste didn't hesitate after that. She followed the fragile trail the girl described. It didn't lead to a dramatic reveal or instant reunion. It led to shelters with peeling paint, handwritten records buried in filing cabinets, forgotten systems that barely worked. It led to conversations that hurt and confirmations that terrified her. Isla was alive, changed, guarded, scarred by uncertainty and survival, but alive. The reunion wasn't cinematic. There was no running embrace, no tears of joy. Isla stood still, cautious, her eyes searching Celeste's face for promises she no longer trusted. Celeste understood then that finding her daughter was only the beginning. Love couldn't be bought back, couldn't be demanded. It had to be rebuilt slowly, gently, honestly. Celeste stepped away from her empire, not abandoning it, but reshaping it. She redirected resources toward child protection programs, shelters, family services. She learned how to listen instead of command, how to wait instead of control, how to show up consistently, even when it was uncomfortable. And the girl who had spoken up that day, she never asked for recognition. But Celeste made sure her life changed too. Education, stability, a future no longer defined by survival alone, not as charity but as gratitude. Years later, that same utility pole still stands, its surface bare now. No missing poster, no desperate hands, just sunlight and time passing. Celeste returns to that street sometimes, not out of pain but remembrance, of the moment everything shattered, and the moment healing finally began. Sometimes the loudest miracles don't arrive with applause or headlines. They arrive barefoot, hesitant, and honest. They arrive through someone small enough to be overlooked, brave enough to speak, and kind enough to care. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video so more people can feel its message. Your engagement helps stories travel further. And before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe one small voice can change a life? Because sometimes it only takes one child, one sentence, and one quiet moment of truth to save a soul that thought it was already lost. And maybe that's why stories like this matter. They remind us that no matter how far we drift, it's never too late to turn back. Healing doesn't arrive all at once. It grows through patience, accountability, and the courage to stay when leaving would be easier.